Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with this Thursday guest and friend of the channel, Mr. Jonathan Twombly. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Michael. How are you today?
I'm doing well. So you shared an article with me this morning I think we have to talk about. Really, it's going to be a thinker for a lot of folks because it's going to go against the wisdom, right? The wisdom out there is inflation is bad. We must beat it back. And, inflation, I think the last CPI was 6.8%, calls for it to go above 7. But you really shared an article that says, hey, guys, go look at Japan. Japan's in something that, maybe 5% inflation isn't all that bad. So why don't you share what you took from that?
Yeah, so this is an article that a friend, so I probably, as you guys know, used to work in Japan. And one of someone who I used to work with posted this article on his Facebook last night. And it is from the Asia Times, and it's called Japan Pays a High Price as It Goes Down Market. And now this is really an interesting article because it talks about the fact, and I had noticed this myself, right? So I'd noticed when I go back to Japan, 30 years after I lived there, right? Everything either costs the same as it did 30 years ago or less.
Oh, wow.
And so like rents are the same or less than what they were when I lived there, right? Wow. And Japan has always had this image as a very expensive country to visit. But the reality is right now that that's no longer true. And the really, really sort of shocking thing about this article was that it pointed out that Japan, which everybody sees as this rich country with where everything is really expensive, has the 4th lowest starting salaries, not of the OECD, not of developed countries, not of anything like that, the 4th lowest starting salaries in the entire world. Wow. The entire world, right? Thailand, someplace you think of as being a developing country, higher starting salaries than.
Wow.
Switzerland, the starting salaries in Switzerland are 4 times what they are in Japan, right? The United States, they're like double what they are in Japan, average starting salaries. And the reason for this is that Japan has had 30 years of either outright deflation or barely any inflation at all. And it has created a lot of problems for people. Yeah. Like salaries not going up, real estate prices not going up, right? And so so when people hear, now I understand like inflation's gets up to 7%. I mean, it's concerning, right? It's not like nothing, right?
Yeah.
And inflation of 7% for many years running
is
would also be a real big problem, right? However, the real issue is deflation.
Yes.
Because what happens in a deflationary environment is people stop spending money because they know that tomorrow everything's going to be cheaper than it is today. They don't invest because they know tomorrow they're going to get a better deal than they are today. Yes. And it basically causes the economy to just grind slowly downward, right? Yeah. And the standard of living erodes in a way differently than it erodes with inflation, right? At least with inflation, there are things that you can do to protect yourself, right? You can buy assets that are inflation protected, right? Salaries also tend to go up. Like you may not keep up completely, but you're not eroding. You're not going to erode at 7% a year. Maybe you're going to erode at some slower rate. And if you make the right investments, maybe your house price appreciation is going to offset a lot of it, right? It's not as bad a situation as when you've got persistent deflation, right? Which is basically where your economy is just slowly grinding down to nothing. So I wanted to bring this up just because I want people to have this perspective that, when I think a lot of people really didn't take seriously, say after the great financial crisis, when you saw a lot of the same stuff we're hearing now, like, what the government is doing is going to cause inflation and we shouldn't worry about, it's all horrible. And then it didn't, right? It didn't cause any inflation. And that was because the deflationary forces were so much greater at the time than the inflationary forces that basically, you think about how massive the intervention in the economy around the world was in 2008, 2009. That stopped that massive deflation, that massive inflationary stimulus just barely got us any inflation, right? The Fed was not even hitting their 2% inflation target at any time. And the reason they had that 2% inflation target is because we need inflation in the economy. It's what keeps the economy going. The Fed just decided that, well, they want it to be, they don't want it to get out of control, right? And now it is, but now we're seeing, well, they're going to dial it back because it is gotten to the point where now it's concerning, right? So we're going to remove some of the stimulus from the economy, but we're not in any kind of like, even though people keep on using this term, it's completely wrong. We're not in a hyper.
No, come on, people. No.
Not hyperinflation.
No.
We've never experienced hyperinflation in the United States. Even in the 70s, that was not hyperinflation.
No.
That was just really bad inflation.
Yeah. So I actually went out and did some research, right? Because people use that term. So hyperinflation, the technical definition is 50% inflation in a month.
Yes.
A month. That's 600% annualized.
Yeah.
We don't have hyperinflation. Yeah. Not going to happen.
That's when literally like prices are changing on a daily basis.
Yeah. They change once in the morning, once in the afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is different from what we've got. What we've got is
we got inflation.
We've got concerning inflation, but now the Fed is going to dial it back, and like Wall Street's going to scream because
those are two topics I wanted to hit before we wrap up episode number 3. One is, as we talked about in episode 1, the Fed's not your friend. The Fed risk off is coming. It's gonna ripple through assets that are bubble-like.
Yeah.
My question to you is, historically speaking, the Fed, Wall Street can whip the Fed into action, right? So for example, if the stock market goes down 30% in a week, there's a pretty good chance that's going to get the Fed's attention and they're going to do something.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm about to lose my battery. So
no, I saw it. That's fine. No problem.
Yeah, I'm listening.
So do you think
okay.
So again, let's say we have an orderly unwind. And again, we don't have a pop of the bubble. We have a slow retreat of the bubble, right? It collapses, organized. It organized. I don't think the Fed comes and bails it out. Once we went from a .com to a housing to an everything bubble, I think they now realize we got to get out of this. It's out of control. So I think they're going to be okay with I think the Fed will be okay with a 20 or 25% stock market correction. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, and look, we had one last year and didn't really seem to affect anybody.
I don't know. They came in and bailed it out right after that, right?
Well, it was, but they already had reduced rates before that, I believe, hadn't they?
It was so fast. I think it was.
Yeah, but it did. Well, anyway, the reducing rates didn't have anything to do with the stock market correction, though, right? That wasn't why they did it. They did it to bail out every single overly indebted company in the United States.
Well, yeah, then that.
Yeah. So I don't think it was because of the stock market. But anyway,
I think that's fair.
I think. Listen, I mean, they've been talking for years about trying to normalize interest rates. They tried to do it in 2018. The stock market went ballistic.
Exactly my question. Yes.
So they got cold feet and backed off. Really, in my view, there was absolutely no reason for them to back off. The economy was doing fine, right? But they got scared. Wall Street cowed them, and they backed off and lowered interest rates again. I agree with you. I think that they, Powell's going to have some backbone.
That's the key. He's going to be more vocal, like a backbone this time. It's not going to bend like a leaf, I think.
Yeah, because I think clearly super low interest rates are not healthy for the economy in the long run.
I agree. Yeah.
And they should have, I think, really the Fed and and all the central banks in 2008 should have come out and said, we're going to have like 0% interest rates for 2 years, prepare for it, do what you want to do. Right
don't be shocked. Don't be surprised.
Yeah, and then we're going to raise it, and we're going to raise it no matter what. And they should have raised rates much quicker than they did.
Yeah,
in my view. But
So last question, wrap this one up. So the 10-year note, I think of this morning, it popped to 1.75. Just again, your crystal ball is as broken as mine. Do you think we see 2.5 by the end of the year on the 10-year Treasury?
I mean,
I'll say yes.
I would say if it happens, I won't be shocked.
Yeah, I think it'll
Okay.
happen.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
not,
by the
I'm
end of
not
the
going
year.
to say it will, but if it
Okay.
does, I'm not going to be surprised.
Very cool. Well, Jonathan, do me a favor. How can people find you?
Yeah, there are a bunch of different ways. You can go to my website if you would like to get on my investor list. And that is Two Bridges Asset Management LLC. There's an investor form you can fill out. You'll get on my list as a result if you do that. If you would like to learn how to be a multifamily investor, you're the kind of person who wants to do this all on your own, you can go join my program, which is multifamilylaunchpad.org/join. That explains the whole program. Very affordable, very comprehensive, and a lot of fun. And you can also get a free download from me if you just want to join my list and kind of wait and see what goes on, get my daily emails. That's if you just go to multifamilylaunchpad.org and you'll see the download right there. So
very cool. Well, Jonathan, thank you very much for another great weekly conversation. Jonathan has a playlist. Go check it out. Hundreds of hours of material. He's always giving back every week. Jonathan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You got it.